Hello everyone and welcome back to another exciting video where today we are going to dive deep into one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1974 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny coin. This is not just an ordinary penny, it is a coin that has captured the attention of collectors all around the world because of its rarity, history, and its incredible market value, which today can reach as high as $93,243. Imagine finding a coin like that in your collection, in a jar of change, or hidden away in an old drawer. That 1-cent piece, a coin many of us would overlook, could actually be a life-changing discovery. In this video we are going to go through the story of the 1974 Lincoln penny, why the no-mint mark version is so important, what makes it rare, the details of its design, the history of the penny itself. And finally, we will explore how and why collectors are willing to pay such astonishing amounts of money for a coin that was originally worth just 1 cent. Let us begin by talking about the history of the Lincoln cent. The Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln was the first real person to appear on a regular circulating United States coin, and this decision marked a huge shift in American coinage. The designer of the Lincoln penny was Victor David Brenner, and his initials VDB can be found at the bottom of the reverse on some early 1909 coins. From that time until today, the Lincoln penny has been in constant circulation, making it the longest-running coin design in American history, though there have been slight modifications over the decades. By the time 1974 arrived, the Lincoln cent was already a familiar piece of American life, passed through countless hands every single day. Now, the year 1974 is particularly interesting in the world of coin collecting because the United States Mint was experimenting with different materials for the penny. Up until that point, pennies were made primarily from a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, with the rising cost of copper during the 1970s, the Mint began to think about alternatives. Some experimental 1974 pennies were struck in aluminum, though these were never released into circulation and most were melted down. A few examples of these experimental aluminum cents still exist, and they are considered major rarities. This is one reason why the 1974 penny is already a special year in the eyes of coin collectors. But the coin we are focusing on today is not the aluminum cent. Instead, it is the regular copper coin, specifically the 1974 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. The no mint mark designation means that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike coins produced at Denver or San Francisco, Philadelphia traditionally did not include a mint mark on its coins. So, when you see a 1974 penny with no letter underneath the date, that is one that came from Philadelphia. Normally, Philadelphia minted pennies are quite common, but for certain years and certain conditions, coins from this mint can command very high prices if they are flawless, rare errors, or unusually well preserved. The 1974 no-mint mark penny has become one of those cases where rarity, condition, and collector demand have created a perfect storm, pushing the value of some examples into six-figure territory. Let us now examine the design details of the coin. On the obverse, which is the front of the coin, you will see the famous bust of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces to the right, and above him is the word Liberty. To the right side of Lincoln is the year, 1974. On coins minted in Philadelphia, there is no mint mark beneath the date, leaving a clean appearance. Above Lincoln's head is the motto "In God We Trust," which has been present on United States coins for over a century. On the reverse, the back of the coin, you will find the image of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This design was introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look very closely, with a magnifying glass, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, which is one of the finest small details in American coin design. Surrounding the memorial are the words United States of America at the top, E Pluribus Unum just above the building, and at the bottom the denomination 1 cent.so. With such a common design and such a high mintage, why would a 1974 penny without a mint mark be worth more than $93,000 today? The answer lies in the combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand. In terms of rarity, while millions of pennies were made in Philadelphia in 1974, finding one in absolutely pristine condition, with no scratches, no wear, and with the original luster still shining is extremely difficult. These are the coins that collectors and grading companies label as mint state, with grades such as MS65, MS66, or even higher. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. In fact, some examples graded at the top of the scale have been sold for tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Another important factor is the existence of errors and varieties. Collectors love coins that have something unusual about them. With the 1974 penny, there are known double die varieties where the letters or numbers appear to be double due to a mistake during the die creation process. There are also off-center strikes, broad strikes, and coins with unusual planchet flaws. These errors can drastically increase the value of the coin. A no-mint mark 1974 penny with a rare error, preserved in near-perfect condition, can easily skyrocket to unbelievable prices. Some collectors have been willing to pay over $90,000 for such pieces simply because they want to own one of the rarest survivors of that year. It is also worth mentioning how grading works, because grading is one of the most important factors in determining value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 1 being a coin that is barely identifiable and 70 being a coin that is perfect in every detail with no marks visible even under magnification. Most pennies you find in your pocket change are between grades 5 and 40. But those that achieve grades over 65 are extremely rare, especially for coins that have been in circulation. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC certify these coins, and when a coin gets an extremely high grade, the market value can increase exponentially. That is exactly what has happened with some 1974 no-mint mark pennies. Now let us talk about the current market value. As of today, examples of the 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln penny in average circulated condition are worth just face value, 1 cent. Even lightly circulated examples may be worth only a few cents to perhaps $1. However, the story changes drastically for uncirculated coins and those with rare errors. High-grade mint state examples have been auctioned for thousands, tens of thousands, and in the most remarkable cases, up to $93,243. That means if you happen to find one of these in nearly flawless condition, you could be sitting on a coin worth more than a brand new car or even a small home. Think about that for a moment. Something as ordinary as a penny, a coin that most of us take for granted, can hold the potential for life-changing wealth. This is why so many people are passionate about coin collecting. Every coin tells a story, and every coin has the possibility of being that rare treasure that others overlooked. It is not just about the money either. Collecting coins is a way of connecting with history, of holding in your hand a piece of the past that has traveled through decades, perhaps even across generations, carrying with it the legacy of the time in which it was made. The 1974 no-mint mark penny also symbolizes an era of change in America. The 1970s were a period of economic uncertainty, with inflation and rising commodity prices forcing the mint to rethink the very composition of the coins it was making. The experiments with aluminum cents show how desperate the situation was becoming, yet the familiar copper penny endured, and today it stands as a testament to both tradition and resilience. For collectors, owning a pristine 1974 penny is like owning a piece of that story, a reminder of how even small objects can reflect the larger forces of history. So what should you do if you think you have a 1974 penny without a mint mark? The first step is to examine the coin carefully. Use a magnifying glass to check the date, the lettering, and the overall condition. Look for signs of doubling or unusual errors. If the coin looks especially sharp, with no signs of wear, it may be uncirculated. At that point, it is worth having the coin professionally graded by a reputable company. This process involves sending the coin to a grading service, where experts will authenticate it, assign it a grade, and seal it in a protective holder. Once graded, the coin can be confidently sold at auction or to private collectors, often for substantial sums. It is also important to store coins properly to preserve their condition. Hello everyone and welcome back to another exciting video where we explore the fascinating world of rare United States coins and how they can turn an ordinary pocket find into a fortune. Today we are diving deep into a coin that has captured the attention of collectors around the world, the 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. This coin might look very ordinary to most people, but under the right conditions and with the right rarity, it can be worth as much as $72,833 in today's market. Imagine holding something so small in your hand that could change your life financially. That is exactly why coin collecting is such an incredible hobby. You never know what treasure could be hiding in plain sight. Now, before we talk about the current market value, it is important to understand a bit about the history of the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln 1-cent penny was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was designed by Victor David Brenner and has remained a beloved American coin for well over a century. The obverse features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse originally had wheat stalks on either side, giving the early issues the nickname wheat pennies. Starting in 1959, to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse design changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. That design was used until 2008. The 1981 penny is part of that Lincoln Memorial reverse era, and it is the final full year before a huge change in composition took place in 1982. The United States Mint transitioned from the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy to a copper-plated zinc composition due to rising copper prices. The 1981 pennies were still struck using the older heavy copper alloy, which means they weigh about 3.11 grams compared to the lighter 2.5 grams zinc cents that came after. That alone makes the 1981 coin historically significant because it represents the last of an era where copper cents dominated American pocket change. Collectors especially treasure this period since the coinage after 1982 feels much different, lighter, and less durable. But what makes the 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent so incredibly valuable? It is not just about the copper composition. The no-mint Mark designation means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1981, coins made in Philadelphia generally did not carry a mint mark at all, unlike those made in Denver with AD or San Francisco with an S. At first glance, this seems completely normal since Philadelphia coins from that year did not display a mint mark. However, the special cases of rarity come into play when you have exceptionally well-preserved examples, coins that have unusual die varieties, or even error strikes. Combine rarity with collector demand and suddenly a coin that is technically just a cent becomes a prized treasure. High-grade examples of the 1981 no-mint Mark penny are extremely hard to find in circulation today. Most of the coins have been spent, scratched, worn down, and lost to time. Only a handful of them survive in pristine uncirculated or mint state condition. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC have certified a very limited number of these coins at the highest grades, and those are the ones that can bring jaw-dropping auction prices. When a coin is graded mint state 67 or higher with red color designation, meaning it has retained its original bright coppery red luster without toning or fading, collectors will compete fiercely to own it. This competition drives the price higher and higher until someone pays tens of thousands of dollars. The specific 1981 no-mint Mark penny that reached the market value of $72,833 was a gem mint state coin with incredible eye appeal. Its luster, sharp strike, and virtually flawless surface made it stand out above all the rest. To put this into perspective, most ordinary circulated 1981 pennies that you might find in your change are worth just 1 cent, maybe a couple of cents if you sell them for copper melt value. But the rarest and most pristine example can skyrocket to a value comparable to a luxury car or even a down payment on a house. That's why coin collectors are always searching through jars of change, rolls of pennies, and old collections in hopes of uncovering one of these hidden treasures. Let's take a closer look at some of the factors that determine the value of a 1981 no-mint Mark penny. The first and most important is condition. Grading is everything in the coin collecting world. A coin graded mint state 60 is uncirculated, but it may have many marks or lack luster. A mint state 65 coin, on the other hand, will have strong luster and only a few minor imperfections. When you reach mint state 67 or higher, you are talking about a coin that is virtually perfect to the naked eye and dazzling in appearance. Those are the coins that set records. Collectors also care about the color designation. Coins are categorized as brown, red-brown, or red. Brown coins have toned to a darker shade over time. Red-brown coins retain some original luster mixed with darker areas. Red coins, the most desirable, look almost as fresh as the day they were struck. Another important factor is rarity of die varieties. During the minting process, if a die used to strike the coin had imperfections or doubled features, those errors could create a variety that collectors prize. For example, double die obverse, repunch dates, or die cracks can make a coin far more valuable than a normal strike. While the most famous double die varieties belong to earlier years like the 1955 penny, collectors still keep a sharp eye out for any unusual 1981 examples. If you ever find a 1981 penny with doubling in the date, the word Liberty, or the motto In God We Trust, it could be worth a fortune if authenticated by experts. Now let us consider the survival rate of high-grade coins. Even though billions of 1981 pennies were struck, only a microscopic fraction of them have survived without any wear. Think about it. People toss them in pockets, purses, cash registers, and piggy banks. Over the years they rubbed against other coins, got dropped, got scratched, and picked up damage from ordinary use. Every single mark reduces the grade. To find one that escaped all that abuse and remains in gem condition is like finding a needle in a haystack. That scarcity explains why collectors will pay $72,000 for one. Collectors also value provenance, meaning the history of a specific coin. If a coin comes from a famous collection or has been featured in auctions with notable pedigrees, it can command higher prices. For example, a 1981 no-mint mark penny that was part of a well-known numismatic collection could fetch more than a similar coin without that pedigree. It adds a layer of prestige to the coin's story. Let us not forget about the role of auction houses and publicity in driving prices. When a rare coin like this comes up for auction, it attracts media attention and collectors worldwide. The bidding wars that happen during these events are thrilling to watch. One determined collector may be willing to outbid everyone else to secure the coin for their collection, and that is how the price climbs into the tens of thousands. The story of a simple penny selling for over $70,000 also inspires casual collectors and sparks renewed interest in checking their own change. So how can you tell if your 1981 penny might be valuable? The first step is to check if it is a Philadelphia coin without a mint mark. Then examine the condition. Does it still have original luster? Are the details sharp? Is there minimal wear? If the coin looks almost brand new, it may be worth submitting to a grading service for authentication. If you find unusual features like doubling, die cracks, or off-center strikes, that increases the potential value even more. Of course, only professional grading will give you a definitive answer, but it is worth investigating if you think you have something special. For many people, the thrill of coin collecting is not just about the money. It is about history, art, and the excitement of discovery. Every coin tells a story about the era it was made in. The 1981 penny, for instance, reminds us of a time when copper was still the standard for cents, before economic changes forced the mint to cut costs. It also highlights the incredible precision of coin production and how even slight variations can become legendary among collectors. And it teaches us that sometimes the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary value. The 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is also significant because it is a transitional coin. As I mentioned earlier, 1982 saw the change to copper-plated zinc. That means 1981 was the last year where every penny struck used the full copper alloy. This makes the 1981 issue more sought after because it closes a chapter in United States coinage history. Transitional years always have extra appeal to collectors because they represent change and rarity. When we look at the numbers, over 7.5 billion pennies were minted in 1981 at the Philadelphia Mint. That sounds like a huge number, and you might wonder how something produced in the billions can be rare. The answer lies in the condition and survival of coins. Out of billions struck, perhaps only a handful exist in the absolute top grades with full red luster.